Social media giant Facebook has been in the news this week, yet again for the wrong reasons. For more than 5 hours, billions were unable to access the platform, including other apps such as Instagram, which are also Facebook-owned. The company is already grappling reports that it failed to flag hate content and misinformation on its platform. Now, that is what a whistleblower recently claimed. But the big question is, what are the options for US lawmakers to regulate Facebook? Welcome to WION World is One. My name is Priyanka Sharma, and on this special broadcast of our WION-VOA Co-Production, we will try and answer these pertinent questions. Let's get started. Now, Facebook is in the sights of US lawmakers yet again. A recent Wall Street Journal report cites internal knowledge of its harmful effects and the company's reticence to the act. And a whistleblower, that is a former Facebook employee, has now come out in public this week to testify against the social media company, only adding to the scrutiny that the social media giant continues to face. VOA's Tina Trin reports more. Take a look.
Facebook, the social networking giant that also owns Instagram and WhatsApp, is in the spotlight once again.
I'm here today because I believe Facebook's products harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy.
Frances Haugen worked at Facebook for 2 years as a project manager, but has since become known as the Facebook whistleblower. On Tuesday, Haugen testified at a Senate hearing about what she says is an intentional lack of action and transparency by the company and its related apps, such as Instagram. She said Facebook algorithms tend to promote falsehoods faster than the truth, citing misinformation campaigns that have spread in the U.S. and abroad.
The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people.
According to Facebook's own study, 32% of teenage girls on Instagram said that when they felt bad about their bodies, the site made them feel worse.
Facebook knows that its amplification algorithms, things like engagement-based ranking on Instagram, can lead children from very innocuous topics like healthy recipes, just something innocent like healthy recipes, to anorexia promoting content over a very short period of time.
But Facebook says that Haugen only had a limited view of research and policy decisions at the social media firm and pointed that out during her testimony. Facebook's head of global safety appeared before senators last week.
Has Facebook ever found a change to its platform would potentially inflict harm on users, but move forward because the change would also grow users or increase revenue?
Has not been my experience at all at Facebook. We care deeply about the safety and security of the people on our platform. We've invested $12 billion in it. We have thousands and thousands of people working on this issue. That's just not how we would approach it.
That's why I believe we've had Facebook, in testimonies at hearings, also always saying they're going to do better, they're going to do different, and then they walk away and nothing happens or nothing majorly happens. And I think that this is the first time that that's being documented about all the things that they actually had information about, things that they could have done, and they just didn't do it.
Some are comparing Facebook to a pivotal moment in the cigarette industries.
Facebook and big tech are facing a big tobacco moment, a moment of reckoning. When we learned of those files that showed not only that big tobacco knew that its product caused cancer, but that they had done the research, they concealed the files.
It remains to be seen if lawmakers and regulators will act to curtail Facebook's alleged harm. Tina Trin, VOA News.
For a better understanding of Facebook's recent troubles, we're now joined by Voice of America's correspondent Chris Casquejo from Washington. Chris, thanks so much for joining us on this special broadcast. Now, as we know, Facebook CEO and founder Mark Zuckerberg has strongly denied the whistleblower's allegations. But the big question is, what are the options for US lawmakers to regulate Facebook as a platform?
Well, some U.S. lawmakers want to actually break up the social media giant, but they are more likely to look at a 1996 law, and it is called the Section 230, and it shields internet companies from liability for what users post. For example, someone can sue a newspaper for libel if a false article about them is posted to Facebook, but they can't sue Facebook. Whistleblower Frances Haugen wants these protections to be stripped away when public safety is at risk. and the dominant algorithms push out information and risk public safety. Critics also say that Facebook has not done enough to combat extremist messaging.
Now, Chris, Facebook also suffered an outage recently, this week itself, that left millions, in fact, billions of Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp users who were unable to access those services. So how did this happen in the first place?
Facebook says it wasn't the target of a malicious attack, but it rather happened during routine maintenance. But this was a reminder about the power and reach of Facebook, especially when the WhatsApp app was down for several hours. WhatsApp has 500 million users in India, and the Indian government actually used the app to help people book appointments for vaccines. And in many countries, it is the primary text messaging app. For example, in Brazil, 99% of smartphones have WhatsApp on them. Facebook has owned WhatsApp since 2014, and for small businesses, the outages cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars, like content creators who post videos and photos in scheduled Instagram posts for corporate clients.
Right, Chris, thank you so much for all those inputs. Stay with us on this special broadcast. We'd like you to weigh in on another story coming from the United States. Let's move on now. As we know, the U.S. western state of California is set to accept 5,000 refugees from Afghanistan, and the state is now getting ready for the same. Voice of America brings you more details in this next detailed report. Take a look.
She is referred to as the voice of Afghanistan. Ustad Farida Mawash uses her singing voice to tell the world about the suffering of her people.
My songs were heard on 5 continents. I saw women who have equal rights with men. And what is happening now when the Taliban came to power in Afghanistan? They practically buried the women alive there.
She gave concerts in support of Afghan children, fought for the rights of Afghan women, and still does it to this day. Mawash and her family left Afghanistan as refugees 3 decades ago and moved to California. Today, she sees more Afghans in California, and the state is preparing to receive another 5,000 refugees from Afghanistan, where the Taliban are back in power.
All the things that you saw in the 90s, but worse, are happening now. Women can't go to school. They can't wear what they want. Everything is their jobs are being taken away from them.
Those who manage to leave Afghanistan will face challenges in America, say activists. But they are doing what they can to make adaptation easier for the new refugees.
If somebody comes here and they don't know anybody, they don't know the language, they don't know how the system works, it's very easy to get lost in the system here. And so I think it's the job of the community and all the people that live in a city to come together and help those people that need it the most.
The refugees are expected to arrive in California in the coming weeks.
We have a variety of different efforts. We have a lot of advocacy efforts on behalf of Afghan refugees. We want to make sure that Afghan refugees that come here have a legal pathway to success here in America, as well as are able to integrate successfully into American society.
Charity organizations, together with local authorities, are dealing with accommodation, while locals are doing what they can to make the newcomers feel as comfortable as possible. Such collection centers for humanitarian help are open these days throughout California.
We ask for a lot of the home supplies, hygiene products, feminine products, bedding, pots and pans. We actually just asked for a lot of the things that we thought would be helpful when you are resettling into a new home that you might not have access to right away.
The majority of Afghan refugees are being allowed in the country under humanitarian grounds. They are granted temporary status and can stay in the U.S. for 2 years, have a right to work and receive some state benefits. They may also apply to renew their humanitarian status when it is set to expire. The Afghan community in California is helping new arrivals find attorneys.
They have to prove that, number one, they're here for a very specific purpose and temporarily, and that they would either return to their country of origin, which is Afghanistan, or that they have another legal route that is already available for them to pursue.
A small group of Afghans with an SIV or special immigrant visa are granted permanent U.S. residence and can apply for citizenship. For Angelina Bagdasaryan in Los Angeles, California, Anna Rice, VOA News.
For more on the story, we still have Voice of America's correspondent Chris Casquejo with us from Washington. Chris, thanks for staying with us. Now, as we just told our viewers, a top U.S. government investigator has testified before lawmakers this week about the 20-year military presence in Afghanistan. So what were the main points that he made, according to you?
That the U.S. effort in Afghanistan was a massive failure, costing trillions of dollars, and it spanned both Democratic and Republican administrations. John Sopko was the Afghanistan Reconstruction Special Inspector General, and he said the U.S. government did not understand the Afghan political and cultural context, thereby leading to empowering corrupt politicians and power brokers. Sopko said successive U.S. administrations contended that success in the Reconstruction was always just around the corner, and that led to 2 decades of effort resulting in a lot of waste. He gave an example of ghost soldiers and ghost police that were paid by the U.S. government, and they were actually created out of individuals who didn't exist, but the U.S. paid their salaries anyway, resulting in a lot of wasted U.S. dollars.
But now my next question for you, Chris. Now, as we know, fears are once again rising that the Taliban will exclude women from public life and, of course, education. What is the U.S. doing to make sure that they live up to the promise that they have made to the world about upholding women's rights?
Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken promised lawmakers last month that he would appoint a senior State Department official to specifically oversee women's issues in Afghanistan, but so far that person is not in place, and lawmakers are urging the State Department and the White House to get that person in place. Meanwhile, the U.S. and the group of 7 allies have agreed to coordinate on making sure that the Taliban keeps its promises to uphold women's rights and international law, but it seems like the Taliban government, 5 weeks into its rule, is clinging to its hardline ideology. In Kabul, a few women have gone back to private universities, but they are separated by a barrier, usually a curtain, from men in the classrooms. And the Taliban has closed public universities, claiming that it is just trying to figure out what it can do to protect women, but they do plan to reopen those schools. We'll see if they are true to their promise.
Chris Casquejo, thank you so much for joining us on this special broadcast of the WION-VOA Co-Production on WION World is One.